Now we're going to shift gears a little bit here, and I'm going to set the stage for this next interview. This is between myself and our good friend of the show, Visible, aka Less Visible, one of the most prolific bloggers on the face of the planet, and it's a very interesting exchange that we have. Took place late Wednesday, early Thursday morning. Now, I uploaded this file, excuse me, and it says here 1756. Now, I hope it's more than 1756. And I've uploaded it twice. It's actually an hour, over an hour. And so I'm a little suspicious over the length of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the interview here because it's uploaded as a file with blogtalk. And then I'm going to have a backup ready to go. It will be my GarageBand file, and I'm going to get it to 1757. And just in case the uploaded file ends abruptly at 1756, I'm going to switch and hit the MP3 file on my computer so we don't miss a beat. And if the sound is different, that's why. It's because I've had to switch to this other file. Okay, so I'm just letting you know, getting it out of the way up front, that this is taking place. So it's a great interview, by the way. Hold on, you're going to hear some really wise and kind of profound stuff coming through our friend over in Germany, and I'm really glad that I could share this with you. Okay, so without, again, any further delay, let's bring on Visible, our friend from Germany. Okay, so we're talking with our good friend, Visible, straight from the Pleistocene era, buried beneath sheets of ice in the new European Ice Age. How's it going, Visible?
Going very well, Robert.
So have you gone out and hunted down a mastodon lately? What's it like over there right now?
Well, there's a few centaurs running around, but mastodons, now you got to go further into the woods for that. But I can hear them bellowing every now and again, for whatever the reasons are that they do that.
Right. So how cold is it right there now?
Well, last night it was minus 20 centigrade.
And what is that translated into Fahrenheit? Can you still remember that?
I don't know. It's very cold, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's below zero.
Below zero. So you guys have, you have serious snow there then, right?
No, not really.
Okay.
There's not that much snow on the ground, and it hasn't snowed that much this winter. There's been very little snow, but it has been, for the last week, extremely cold.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went to the dump the other day, and Suzanne had put together these various packages that had to go in different bins. Cardboard went over there, metal went over there, crockery went over there. And as I was going out, I saw these gloves laying outside, and I went, And I went, no, that's okay. And so I go down to the dump, and it was so cold that by the time I had finished what I was doing, I could not feel my hands. And I went to the supermarket, and it was like agony as they were, waking back up.
Right.
Jeez.
Yeah, that could be painful and also pretty dangerous. You get hypothermia and this thing called Raynaud's disease or Raynaud's, and your hands
go orange in the middle of your forehead.
I don't know about that, but wherever your extremities get frozen, you'll experience that pain again later on if it gets even remotely cold. So you gotta be careful with that stuff.
Oh, it's like some kind of a sympathetic nervous system.
Exactly. So you went from the warmth and the sun of Mexico to the Ice Age. What was Mexico like? How long were you there for?
I was there for about a month, and I have to talk around it to be discreet.
Okay.
So I can't really present a lot of details. Let's just say that the guests, for the most part, were very pleased and had a good time. But there was an individual with whom I had a pretty serious conflict, and that resulted in my having to leave.
Did you feel threatened at any point in time?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
They felt that I was threatening.
Really? You're a pussycat.
Yeah,
Visible, you're a pussycat.
Yeah, I know. I mean, of course I'm not, and there was an anticipation that something would happen, but nothing ever did. I mean, there wasn't anything really, but there was a belief in a certain quarter that I was plotting against this person.
Yeah, that's weird.
In fact, the person was doing it to me.
Right.
And projecting, assuming because they were doing this that I was doing it. But I wasn't, you see. But that assumption led to the series of events that, climaxed in whatever happened. And so it was all based on an illusion. And because I didn't know that this had been assumed, I was unaware of it.
Right.
So I was unable to disabuse of that belief or to do anything about it. And by that time, it had, accelerated to the point where I don't know what to say.
Minions of the Matrix. That's what you ran into, apparently.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and I think on the whole they're fairly decent people. All of them. Now, the guests who came were wonderful.
Right.
I had what I thought was a pretty good time with all of them. But what it really boiled down to was a power struggle. Okay?
Yeah.
Everyone was coming to see me, and I was to be the focal point. But I found myself, instead, sort of in competition without wanting to be.
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird place to be.
And it became more and more pronounced as time passed. So.
Right. Yeah, that's
me.
Yeah. That's strange. Yeah, because then you're in this process. Then, like, well, I'll try to make myself smaller or try to be more cordial.
Exactly what I did.
Yeah, and that never really works out. Right.
Yeah, and that isn't what they wanted either, And so as a result, I curtailed a lot of the things that I was going to demonstrate. I was going to demonstrate certain martial arts things, meditation techniques. I was going to do a video called House Yoga. It's this thing I came up with where you use the house you're in as a basis for the yoga you do. You use doors, apertures, furniture, and you stretch and go into all these different kinds of positions. It's pretty interesting. And I wanted to make that video and donate it to this community that was going to happen. And I wanted to do a number of things, but finally at that point, something in me shut down.
Yeah.
And it wasn't comfortable doing it anymore because there was an atmosphere going on that I didn't see. I never knew what the actual problem was, except part of the problem was me. But.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, we're living in a time and an era where palace intrigue is just really not all that interesting, and quite frankly, very contradictory to where we want to steer this thing. So, how did that impact your publishing deal at all, or is that going to go off?
Yeah, that's all mixed up in there too, and everything. I'm going to have to find another publisher. Luckily, the next book didn't get published yet. I have another novel coming out now that is just about all done. The proofreader and the editor has got his end of it all together, and I merely need to send him the final 5 chapters, and then that'll be good to go. I don't suppose I'm going to have any trouble finding a publisher.
I don't think so. Not with your web.
I've got a certain amount of profile, and I think I can just enter around.
Yeah, no.
There are other people that have, like say, if I asked Jeff Brents, maybe he might steer me in the right direction. Or so I know a number of people who we would say more or less connected, and so they might be able to give me advice.
Right.
That's the route I'll go.
Right. I might even be able to help you, and we can talk about that offline.
Oh, no, there you go.
Yeah. So, okay, well.
Sharing the profits, yeah.
So, there we go. Mexico, interesting learning experience. Moving on.
Right.
You're back in Berlin.
Not in Berlin, actually, hundreds of miles south. That is Berlin time.
Okay, so you're back in Germany.
Yeah.
And last Sunday, this past Sunday, you watched the Super Bowl.
Yes, I did.
And I read your post on the Super Bowl, which I thought was very interesting, and it actually inspired me to do a kind of a frame-by-frame breakdown of Madonna's halftime ritual.
Oh, right. Yes, that was something else.
Which
I didn't pay that attention, but...
Yeah, I got into that, and there's a lot going on there, but we can get into that maybe a little bit later. I really would like your thoughts on not just the Super Bowl. I'm a football fan. I'm a big 49er fan.
Oh, right.
And they had this really amazing game against the Saints, and
They certainly did.
And I got to tell you, it was the atmosphere after that game was so electric and so elated and high. One of the guys I watched the game with was this 80-year-old ex-police detective, really nice guy, and he said that he hadn't seen anything like that in a public space since World War II ended. People were hugging each other. I mean, it was really kind of an interesting vibe.
49er fans are unique in a certain way. They're very into their team.
Yeah, they are.
It's been a long time.
It has. So they were definitely hungry. So now we got the Niners waiting around, and they wind up playing the New York Giants, and the Patriots play the Ravens. Now, right. you specifically were commenting on that Raven game. Visible, that was one of the weirdest games, especially.
That was so strange. That made no sense. And shanking that chip shot at the end.
What was your take on that whole thing?
Well, now, see, here's an interesting thing, okay? Why I started writing a little bit about, the game coming up, because I thought there was a reason that I was going to watch it. And a number of people were saying to me, the games are fixed.
Right.
I know the games are fixed. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, no, you can't fix a football game. Basketball, maybe, blah, blah, blah. But then I go and I watch the game. I watch the Super Bowl, because it happened between the Ravens game and the Super Bowl when I started hearing these things from people. So
right.
It wasn't in my head when I watched the Ravens game. But then when I saw the Super Bowl, I started going, you know what? I'm seeing things here.
Yeah.
I am seeing things, and I don't like what I'm seeing, and it kept on. And by the time halftime came, and went into the second half, a certain part of me just shut off, and I hardly even paid attention to the game. I was sitting here, it was going on and all, but my interest just vanished.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me echo the first part or part of what you've just shared. There was a darkness to this game, Visible. Yeah. And after the mega ritual of the return of Isis, a la Madonna, the second half was completely flat.
Yeah.
And it had, as Bruce Lee
the
said,
energy left the field.
Yeah, as Bruce Lee said, there was no emotional content.
Isn't that odd that some number of us were all experiencing that? That's kind of strange.
It is strange, and it was after that ritual, very weird stuff. And then you had the weird ending of it. Everything was just strange about that game.
Well, I'll say, like it was strange about the Ravens game. It had a similar kind of, like, what the hell is going on?
Well,
like, there's more going on than what I was seeing, and
yes.
more going on than just a game, and more going on than I was used to seeing in the past.
Yes, and the 49er game had a similar vibe and theme as the Raven game.
Uh-huh.
Now the Raven game, it came down to, first of all, there was that pass that Lee Evans caught in the end zone.
Right.
And then it was stripped. Now here's the weird part. A lot of times the officials, especially when something could be a potential score,
sure,
they will look at that on the replay.
Well, they automatically have to do it now. Anytime a score, that's a rule now.
But they didn't do it on that play.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And the other thing is, I don't know if you knew this, but the scoreboard at Foxborough said when Cundiff was kicking that field goal, the scoreboard said it was 4th down. It was actually 3rd down.
Huh.
Yeah.
Because of the time factor.
Because the Patriots were fucking with the Ravens.
Oh. Yeah, well, there was something going on. I just don't, and Brady was so off.
He was really, yeah.
Unlike him, and then in the Super Bowl, his receivers were dropping their passes.
Yeah.
He's usually Wes Welker. Come on. He's like a slam dunk as far as...
He's money.
He's money.
Yeah.
And, to have that happen, that would have changed the game. They would have won.
Yep. Now, conversely, the Giants have been a recipient of, like, outstanding, quote-unquote, luck.
Yes.
From about week 15 on. There was a play where a field goal kicker for the Giants missed a field goal. I'm sorry, for the Cowboys, missed a field goal. And it could have won the game, and essentially the Cowboys would have been in the playoffs and not the Giants.
Right.
And so they got into the playoffs with a missed field goal. Then they beat the Falcons in Atlanta. Now, here's the weird part for me. Now they go to Green Bay.
Yeah.
And Green Bay they are the Maserati of the NFL this year, right?
Right.
Well, the Sunday before the game, a week before the game, the son of the offensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers goes missing and dies.
Wow.
Yeah. And there is some really strange stuff like around his death. I put it on my website. So first of all, he was 21 years old, and he had been convicted for 2 counts of sexual assault. Apparently, what he had done is there were 2 girls at a party that had passed out, and he had sex with them, right? He got busted. Anyway, but he's going to college, 21. At 2:15 in the morning, he goes to Oshkosh, in the woods in Oshkosh. He calls a friend at 2:15. At 2:30 in the morning, and I found this on the internet, a security guard from a business nearby calls 911 and says that someone has fallen through the ice. So actually it was 33 minutes later. And now here's the weird part, right? So he makes this call, and they knew that he had gone missing, and at about 8:15 on Sunday night, right? Sunday night, not 2:15 or 2:35 or 2:45 Sunday morning, but 8:15 on Sunday night, it's official that he's reported missing. And then on Monday, they find his body. But this security guard called this in at 33 minutes after he made the phone call. It just does not make any sense. Why wasn't somebody out there after he made that call? It's just that there's so much strangeness around this thing. So now the Giants go to Green Bay. This is a kid that's been around the Green Bay Packers facility since he was 12 years old. So the players knew him. And they were in a state of shock. The Packers were not ready to play. And the Giants went up there and they smoked them.
Yeah, they did.
Then they go to San Francisco, and San Francisco's playing their tails off. There's a very pivotal play in the 4th quarter where Ahmad Bradshaw theoretically fumbles. The Niners get the ball back, and then they blow the whistle. And then they say it was forward progress. Had the Niners got the ball at the 21-yard line, there's a good chance they win that game. Then there's this whole kind of supernatural thing where Eli Manning's throwing the ball all over the place, and the Niners could have had 2 interceptions, and the players wind up slamming into each other. One of the players goes unconscious, gets taken out of the game. his replacement comes in. A few plays later, Eli Manning picks on him and throws a touchdown to Mario Manningham. And then there's 2 fumbles by Kyle Williams, number 12, the hanged man, on punts, one of which was completely inexplicable. I mean, just again, the bizarre nature of how the Giants won.
Well, let me point something out here. I don't know how this applies. You know an old book, Morning of the Magicians?
Yes, I was thinking about that earlier today.
Okay. Anyway, just tangentially, it's long been known that witches and different other individuals will get together collectively and work to put hexes or whatever you want to call it on particular teams at particular times. And this I'm aware of. It happens. I'm not going to speak to the effect of it or whether it's real or whether it isn't. But at this point, we know that just from the government experiments and things, dealing with telepathy, dealing with all the different phenomena that influence human behavior or can influence human behavior, there's a very good likelihood that things like that, something like that, is going on, because that would then explain,
I think you're all over it. There was something very supernatural about both of those games, so that the Patriots and the Giants would face each other in the Super Bowl, and that ultimately the Giants would be the team that would prevail in the Super Bowl for reasons that first of all, I've been reading this stuff about the return of the Nephilim, who are giants. Yes. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I read about that. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then tonight, as I was cruising around the internet, I kept thinking about Eli. What is the significance of Eli, right? What is Eli all about? Why Eli? Why Eli? Well, I did a little search on Eli, and I found something really interesting. Apparently, there is this laser system in Europe. I got to read this to you. I want your take on this. It's called the Extreme Light Infrastructure. It's also known as Eli. And I did not know about this till tonight. It says it is a proposed high-energy laser research facility of the European Union. The facility will host an exawatt Class 10 laser that will enable scientists, through relativistic compression, to produce intensities of 1023. This is a formula that I don't understand. It says here it would be so powerful that it may disrupt the virtual particles that inhabit space and explore dark energy.
Yeah, well, they're good at exploring dark energy.
Eli.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of mysterious stuff going on, and there's a lot of technology they're getting their hands on, and things that they're, because this is apocalypse, this is a time of revelation. That means, a lot of secrets and things are going to be uncovered, and all kinds of things are going to be exposed. Positive things, negative things, stuff that's been hidden for centuries. All of this stuff is going to come out.
Yeah.
And what has happened is, and this is what accounted for the destruction of Atlantis and probably many another culture whose names we don't even know about, is that the level of human morality cannot catch up with the level of the technology. So, because people, are not evolved to a point where they have sufficient control over themselves and higher moral standards, the technology becomes applied in ways that are seriously destructive instead of useful.
Yeah.
And that's how they, wipe themselves out.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. When I saw, Thrive and Foster Gamble's going on about free energy and such, And I'm a big proponent of at least getting closer to free energy, or really, really, really good energy, cheaper energy. And I asked myself, well, could we really handle that? I'm not sure.
Well, see, this is the problem that's going on right now. There's various levels or stations of human consciousness. The majority of people are not awake. They're very much inside of a dreamscape. And some of them are relatively unconscious. And then the rest that are in the dreamscape are having their consciousness manipulated by things like Christian Zionism, political structures, right versus left, all of these kind of things, that they align themselves with something that assists in giving them some kind of an identity.
Right.
This is what I think, so therefore this is what I am. Then there are some people who are partially awake, and there's in another space altogether, and that's where you get a lot of people talking about 9/11 and all the rest of the things that go on in metaphysics as well. Then there are some people who are very awakened, and you've got these different levels operating, but to get down to the bottom, where the large unconscious sleeping mass is, it has to be stirred up. It has to be galvanized by some kind of a cosmic force, because otherwise it will not awaken on its own. And that is the reason why there are, these destructions in nature, these wars, all of these different things that are taking place. They are really primarily, I know that's not the intention of people doing it, but they are primarily cosmically part of the whole thing that has to wake people up. They don't wake up until they're in extremity.
Right. What would be the opposite of a false flag? Would it be a true flag? Would it be a flag?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Well, apparently there's one of those coming up now. It's probably going to be a doozy, because they got to get all the ducks in a row so that they can slaughter the entire duck population.
Well, they've got their sights trained on Syria or Iran. It's like they're flipping a coin, right? I mean, it's like, who's going to go first?
Yeah, there seems to be no way to stop that. I know the cosmos is actively involved at this time in what's going on the planet. Sometimes, the ineffable is backed off, allowing human evolution and human conditions just to go on according to the laws of karma and so forth and so on. But then there are times when God wakes up, so to speak.
Yeah.
He's dreaming too. And and he wakes up and he becomes active within human affairs. And that is going on right now. I mean, I've been directly told this. So there's no telling what the cosmos might do, because the cosmos said to me, or the ineffable, or however it may be, when I was in Italy, I'm here now. I am here. Understand that. I'm here. And I'm going to show up right in the middle of those guys. I'm going to show up right in the middle of them, catch them right there in the act, and then I'm going to kick their ass. He was saying things like that, and he says, you realize, says, I'm what I am. You can just imagine how creative I can be, how ingenious I can be.
Right.
When it comes to comic circumstance, and when it comes to irony and such things. So you be sure you will be seeing these things, and you will know my hand is engaged.
I believe that, absolutely, and I think we're going to see more of that. I had a strong premonition tonight that that Israel is going to have to deal with a significant amount of civil unrest coming up here. And I don't know where it came from. It just came out of left field. And it just felt like they're going to start to have to deal with their own crap internally. People are going to start to create their own sense of friction and drama and conflict inside of Israel that is going to kind of slow their machine down. And it was actually pretty strong hit. What is your take on something like that?
Well, I think that there are a variety of viewpoints going around, and I tend to think that Israel is being set up to be destroyed by certain forces, and I think that's part of that is in order to increase sympathy for them again.
Right.
Because that sympathy is really rapidly disappearing, and their actions and their behavior is right there before the eyes of the world.
Yeah.
Certainly because of the internet. And they are losing, not only are they being exposed as controlling the world financial engines and the media and all the rest of these kind of things, but, they're being exposed in the ways that they are operating. And as the awakening continues, which it will, and more people come to see, then that's going to have an exponential effect on how these people are viewed.
Yeah.
And so my feeling is that they're engineering some sort of a major debacle.
That's interesting. I've also run across a scenario that's similar, and that they would actually wind up losing the Dome of the Rock and also the Church of Joseph of Arimathea. And as a result, they would build a new interfaith temple and put the capstone on the temple where the Dome of the Rock is now. It would be the new Temple of Solomon. So I've heard something very similar, but it would have to involve destruction to parts of Jerusalem. Significant.
If they attack Iran,
yeah.
It seems like they will, missiles are going to rain down.
Yeah.
Israel. I don't care whether it's Iron Dome or any other kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Hezbollah, Syria, Iran, and not to discount Russia and China, who knows where and at what level they're going to be involved. I would say that there could be a very fierce response. And I have long believed that the Iranians already have a nuclear weapon. And certainly they could get one if they wanted one. I mean, with it being tight with Russia and China.
Right.
And it's not impossible to speculate that such a device might actually be inside Israel already.
Right.
Or, any number of things. I have a feeling that the Iranians have some tricks up their sleeve. It's just really a feeling that I get, very strong feeling, that there's a lot we don't know.
I'd agree. Yeah.
That they do know about what's going to happen when it happens. And,
What's your take on Ahmadinejad? Is he an inside guy?
I think he's all right. Basically, he's what he is. He's what his country needs. He's not in charge. The mullahs are in charge, but he's a simple guy. He comes out of a rural landscape. That's his where he comes from, his background. And he rose up one way or another. I don't know exactly how he did all of it, but he really cares about the people. I do believe that he really loves the Iranian people. In some ways, he's like Putin like that. And I don't know that he isn't maybe more malicious than I think, or maybe like, slightly insane as most leaders are. But I generally get a feeling about him that he's just like a regular guy that's in that position, and he cares very much about his country and is trying to, have it develop and grow and, be all that it can be. That's kind of my view. Yeah,
I've heard various theories about him that he might actually be, on the inside, that he could be controlled opposition. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, well, see, once you get into this conspiracy thing, and it's one reason that I kind of just keep it off there to the side. Like, there are some things like 9/11, I know who did it, and there are things that I don't know about it, but I know enough about it so that I can just put it up on the shelf, like a book. And there are some other things that I feel pretty confident or so. But when you start getting into some of these really complex and Byzantine conspiracies, that involve God only knows what, and everybody's a tool, and the Illuminati's doing this, and the Masons are doing that, and da. I tend to stay off to the side of all those things because it's just really murky in there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who are just, they're just absolutely convinced that they're right. Those are the worst kind of people. So,
Yeah.
So I try to stay apart from that sort of thing.
So Cliff High just recently printed out or published. You have 26 days left to live. It's going around the internet now, and it has to do with this whole concept of the false flag with Israel, war with Iran, maybe a battleship in the Persian Gulf, and I thought to myself, well, that's pretty extreme, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not sure. I'm not, and if it happens, it happens. But I'm not going to invest in this. And so my question to you is, first of all, A, what do you feel about something like that? And B, do you think it is avoidable? Can we shift this to kind of a multiverse perspective, or tweak the timeline, or do something different?
Well, now, people may be of different opinions concerning me and my relationship to the ineffable. But whatever the case may be, there's very definitely a voice inside me that speaks to me on a very regular basis these days. It was intermittent for a very long time, but suddenly in the last few years, it's become almost like a constant presence. And whatever it is, it's very highly informed, and it certainly comes across as what it claims to be. But I, can't put a definitive answer on it. Anyway, I'm told certain things, and that is what I rely on. That is where I get my basis for reality and how I conduct my life and what I think is going on and what I think isn't going on. And Cliff has, before, it was a few months ago, he wrote this short kind of letter that was so depressing and so down on it. Oh my God, as he feels like that. Oh no, this is, But then again, he put out another one of the Alta reports, and then he was a little more positive and optimistic again. I went, oh, okay, all right, so that's better. Now, 26 days, I don't buy that at all.
Right.
And I don't want to. I have a lot of respect for Cliff. I like Cliff. I don't really know him, but I have a lot of respect for him. And so I don't want to denigrate. He's seeing it from another perspective, and for all I know, he's right. But that seems to me to be a very, very dramatic, sweeping generalization that goes counter to what I myself am feeling. See, I go by what I feel inside, and there are levels of feeling, like secure, apprehensive, these different kinds of things. And I'm generally like, hey, everything's okay. Everything's okay at the moment. So that's how it goes with me.
Well, that's reassuring, and I think you are connected to Source, probably as clearly and as closely as anybody I know. So I'll roll with that. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your readers.
Sure.
And the people that come to your website. You have one of the most passionate and devoted group of readers that I've come across on the internet. I wonder if you could say a few words about them and what it's like to have them as a support in terms of your own work, and how they inspire you, and kind of the general tone of the relationship, the overall relationship with them.
Well, between Source, as you call it, and my readers, I owe everything. I wouldn't be anything without the resonating response of these people. Mm-hmm. Now, my belief is that the ineffable who resides in me also resides in them. And so what happens is I hit sympathetic strings. I hear just about every single day. I hear it at Facebook, I hear it in emails, I hear it at the sites, that I have just articulated exactly what was in their minds that very morning, that previous evening. I mean, I hear this like routinely. I've heard it hundreds of times by now. So there must be something to it. And so my feeling is, and I use the word resonance a lot, and because that's how it feels to me. I can feel those readers out there. I have a certain telepathic thing that came with the Kundalini awakening, and I can sense them and their being and things along those lines. And for some strange reason, I seem to have attracted some of the brightest, most, equanimitous, balanced, and together people that I've ever seen. And I have a very high regard for a lot of them. And I just figure this is all God's doing. God has arranged all of this because I don't really have the ability to do any of that. And I just write these things. I sit down to write a post. I don't even think about it. It just comes out.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to say most of the time. I just, I go off and there it is, and have I answered you, or is there something you want
No, I think that's a great answer. I mean, I think it gives gives me some insight into how important they are to you, and also it gives me it speaks to a relationship that I have experienced also with my small group of people and that read my website, and I experience the same thing. I experience this field that we share together, and so it's a pretty cool thing. And
No.
And the other thing I wanted to say is that there's also this interesting experience that I'm having around like dissipative structures. For instance, you inspire me, and I read your stuff, and I know it goes inside and churns, and and I do my thing, and what I've noticed is that since you put the links up to my site in the feed to your site, we're getting this kind of commingling now of people, and something kind of dynamic and synergistic is happening, and it's in kind of a nascent stage, but I don't know. I feel like that there's something generating, and I know that I'm not the only person that is part of this process with you. There are other people, but to me, it's actually quite hopeful and optimistic.
Yeah, absolutely. See, that's another thing about this 26 days thing. Okay, why would God arrange the whole dynamic that's me in relation to these, a lot of people, in this kind of web, this resonating web of interplay back and forth? It was just all going to be wiped away in a few days. I mean, there's a lot of things that are all going on that it seems to me were engineered for a good reason. And some of us have been chosen to be voices, and some of us have been chosen to do other things. And we have a job we're doing, and it has its effect upon life, a very small effect compared to the highly negative effect of the more mainstream Caracum Maximus stuff. But it seems to me that it's a work in progress, and I don't see, I think the divine is going somewhere with it. I don't know exactly what. I know ever occasionally he ups my abilities. I was sitting there and I go, oh, wow. Geez, I just got a promotion,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, actually.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I have some new tools or new perspectives or, just a wider grasp. Like I got a couple extra fingers or something,
Yeah.
And I can tell when it happens. It's like I get a little boost. And now I've been being told for quite some time, well, God says, I have my time, and then there's your time. So when I say things are coming very soon, or it's just about to happen, that doesn't necessarily mean that.
Right.
That means in my time, not in your time. He says, but our time, they're coming closer and closer together all the time. And I want to tell you that you haven't seen anything yet. You have no idea what I'm planning on demonstrating to you. And you just better prepare yourself. And, it goes on like that a lot. And, it's a little like, it makes me like a little doubtful sometimes, like, wow, no, that's not going to be true about me. I'm not like, anyone, uh, you know, different from anyone else, and I know my shortcomings and failings and mistakes I make, and I think, but geez, I don't see what God would want to do. When he tells me, he says, you don't know you as I know you, and you have to suspend any idea you have of right or wrong anymore. None of them apply. Everything you're going through, I'm putting you through. Everything, to the smallest detail in your life, to the people you see on the street, to the dog that suddenly barks as you walk by, to the cat that walks up on the grass, to the people in the supermarket, to the cars driving by, to the bird flying across the sky. Every bit of this is under control and arranged in my dynamic interaction with you. This is what I need you to understand. I need you to rely on me utterly. Rely on me utterly. When you do this, there's going to be a marvelous surprise. And I'm going to make sure you do it anyway, so you don't really have a choice. That kind
of That's good. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. Why are people, particularly the Christian Zionists, why are they so addicted to revelation in the end time? It's like a death cult. Why is that?
Well, it's like sex. They're looking forward to that orgasm. I mean, that's how they identify. Yeah. Everything in life is sex anyway. Look at the terms like the rapture, okay? Just look at the word, ascension. Well, the dick ascends too.
It's true.
Yeah, it's all, see what has happened with the Christian Zionists or any fundamentalist religious people. It's directly connected to their sexual drive. And they have to channel their sexual drive a particular way, and that's how it demonstrates itself under the cloak of that particular apparatus, structure, religion, whatever the hell it is. And but it's not natural, okay? And so their sexual force is channeled in unnatural ways. So it comes out as fanaticism, denial, ignorance, and often enough in actual sexual acts. And they have a real difficulty with that because the religion itself is not natural as it presently exists. Jesus Christ is very supernatural, and I believe everything that's said about him and more. But as far as Christians go, well, they're that name only. Their behavior, you see, it's all they're fighting with themselves, and that's the thing with the sexual force. They're fighting with themselves. They're not comfortable. There's this whole sin concept thing. There's that life is all evil, and that all your righteousness is filthy rags. And it goes on and on and on and on. Nobody is worthy, and da da da. So you get in this kind of a mindset, and you're easily manipulated because, after all, you are not worthy, right? And the one thing that really milk is guilt.
Yeah.
This is what people that run them do, see?
Yeah.
And that's why alcohol is the permitted drug of choice on the planet, because alcohol brings out all the baser passions and all the darker shit. And so then it also assists and works right into this dynamic.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, right, the rapture is the climax of human history, right? Yeah, that makes total sense. I remember seeing. By the way, Pat Robertson thought Madonna's halftime show was great.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. It doesn't surprise me, by the way.
Well, that guy he's a real piece of work. That guy.
That's putting it mildly. I remember watching a special on religion in America. This is when Bush was still around. I think it might have been about 2005 or 2006. And I think it was Brokaw, and he was spending a lot of time at this mega church in Colorado.
Yeah, sure. That's Ted Haggard's place.
Well, that's right. In fact, he actually was interviewing. Ted Haggard was a key figure in this story. And that's when Haggard was meeting along with a number of leaders from the Christian Zionist community. They were doing these phone meetings, these phone calls with Bush on a weekly basis to basically discuss the symbolism and the language of his speeches, so that they could have talking points. Like he would use a phrase like, works of wonder, and that would be code to the clergy of these mega churches, and they would be buying into Bush as being one of them, right? And Haggard just came off as so pious and smug in this special, and then 5 months later,
yeah,
he's doing meth off of some male prostitute's buttocks on a massage table, in Denver.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting sidebar to that, and this is just something I heard. I can't remember where I read it or what have you, but apparently Haggard had a falling out with the Israelis over something having to do with doctrine or direction he was going in or something else. And the understanding is he was set up in respect to what happened to him.
That's interesting.
I heard it and it seemed legitimate to me the way it was explained, but I can't remember anything about it now.
Well, I'd love to do some research on that because, the Israelis, they get a lot of money from American churches.
They certainly do.
And people like John Hagee. In fact, John Hagee even has.
John Hagee.
John Hagee even has a gymnasium, a sports complex named after him, and I think it's in Tel Aviv or some others.
Yeah, well, looking at him, I don't think he spends much time in that sports complex.
He looks like Jabba the Hutt, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's a very dark and deluded individual, that one.
And unhealthy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, anything else new in your psychedelic visionary neighborhood?
Well, hopefully I'll be engaging some related thing of that nature at some point. But anyway, to tell you the truth, Neptune is really whacking me around. I mean, I've been having these you know what Neptune does. Of course, you're an astrologer.
Yeah.
And, it blows things out of proportion. Isn't that correct?
It does. Yeah.
And it amplifies, it does these kind of things. And I've been having these perceptual things. Well, first of all, it's really influenced my behavior, and not in a positive way, as I demonstrated a couple of times over the course of the last 5 weeks. And I've toned that all down, but there's an impetus on my part to just, get out there, get wild, get wacky, and that isn't good. And yesterday, for instance, I walked out the back door, I went to the garage, I saw the door was open, I was going to close the door so the dogs wouldn't exit through there and run into the street. Suzanne had just pulled away, her lights went out, and so then it was dark in the garage. And I walked toward the door and I said, "Oh, the door's closed." And I very nearly walked right into the edge of the door with my head. It was a good thing I had my hand out in front of me. But I couldn't believe that my perception was just that off, and there's been a variety of things along those lines.
Uh-huh.
If you could tell me a little something about that,
Well, I think that that Neptune dissolves boundaries. And perhaps space is a boundary. I mean, we think of space as being nothing, but I'm not so sure about that.
Right.
Like the space between you and something else, well, it seems like there's nothing there, but I'm sure that there's plenty there.
Uh-huh.
And so it could very well be that Neptune is dissolving the boundaries between not just solid objects, but the space between solid objects. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would really appreciate, I hesitate to ask you because I know you're really busy and everything, but I'd like to ask you to take another look at my chart just for the next month or two, if you could. If you could find anything new to tell me. If not, I have your other reading, which I will go back and refer to. But I am a little bit like, not quite myself. And I would like to investigate that or be told that, hey, that's all going to work out 2 weeks from now, don't worry about it, this kind of thing, or, put your seatbelt on.
Yeah, I think something happened to you in Mexico.
Yes, it did.
That's my take. Yeah, that's my take. Something happened there. Something tweaked your energy down there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
First of all, when I was going down there, now this is an interesting note. I have these Kundalini experiences. Sometimes they're extremely severe. Sometimes they're lighter, and I just twitch and jump, as the energy flashes up my spine. In Italy, a few years ago, I had a major event, and I didn't sleep for 12 straight days. But I wasn't tired. I was out working every day and everything. It was just, it was totally supernatural. And over time, I thought, I may never sleep again. Okay, that's cool. Now I have that city, But then, eventually, I did integrate back into, circadian rhythms. But anyway, when I got on the plane, and even before I got on the plane to fly to Mexico, I had an uprising, and it was quite severe. And when I got to Mexico, I was shaking. It was not the best entrance I could have made.
Yeah.
And of course, I immediately drank, 5 or 6 shots of scotch, just try to tone it down. And it did work in a way,
Yeah.
But then I relied on that for the next couple of days, and I got a little bit Looney Tunes. And but then I was all right. Then I stopped, and it just went away. And the experience was over. But that was my introduction to going down there, and it was scary. And so I'm just a little interested about what more might be coming up along those lines. I'm told everything's under control. It's all for my own good. That I'm being put through these things for a reason, and that I will understand soon enough why all of it had to be the way it is. And I'm trying to rely and surrender, but you can't rely and surrender until you're allowed to. You can try as hard as you want to.
Yeah, it's true.
The final surrender is accomplished by the divine,
right?
Who makes it possible for you to have something to fall down into.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Surrender is a dynamic process in that regard. Because at that point, if you didn't have that dynamic process, it would be giving up, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you, I look at other people sometimes. The state of the world this time is very grim. There's a lot of despair.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of suicidal angst and all kinds of things going on out there. And I think to myself, man, I am one lucky fellow. I am just the luckiest man in the world. Because I have the inevitable, and I can go to him, at any time, and I have that to rely on, I have that as my confidant, my eminence Greece, so to speak. And I think about these other people, and they don't have that. Oh, if they only knew, or if they would just try harder, if they would reach. So many people are turned off by religion, you see, that's the big problem. They think they hate God. They think they don't believe in God. But it's just religion they don't believe in.
Right.
And the acts of religion are the things that religion do. God and religion are separate. They're different things. And this is what messes so many people up. Whenever I hear them complaining about all this, it's always about the stuff that religion does. Or they say, well, God would never allow this, so they can't be God, da, 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 da. Well, everything is permitted, as far as that goes. And this is all according to the rights of karma. You go out and you do a lot of bad shit in a particular lifetime. Conditions are set up for your return so that you can run into some bad shit on your own. And that's how it balances the scales. Because we only ever see one side of the Mobius strip while we are incarnate in these bodies. So the other half of the Mobius strip is invisible. We only see the half occurred, and so our knowledge and understanding is limited, and so we speculate, we assume, we do all these different things, but we don't really know, and this screws us up.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. And the whole thing with religion, I mean, let's go back to, Pat Robertson. Here we have, the Christian Zionists, the fundamentalist Christian right, have completely bled any kind of compassion, out of their faith.
Yeah.
Which has really done a terrific job of alienating people towards that end. So, there's a reason why a lot of people are very reflexive. It's because of the amount of judgment, which, quite frankly, had nothing to do with the life of Jesus.
Now, God, if they just emulate the guy, I don't understand what it is that they don't get. Look at the life of Jesus, look at how Jesus conducted himself, and do the same. Maybe not chase money changers out of the temple. I don't know. That may not be your gig. But certainly in all of the higher and finer expressions of love and those qualities of compassion, forgiveness, and all the rest of that, it's right there in front of them. It's right there in their book. They're reading this stuff. They see where, Jesus said this and Jesus said that. They're right there reading it. But there's this cognitive dissonance. There's this disconnect between what they're reading and their own personal behavior at the moment they get away from reading it and go out into the world.
Yeah, that because they're addicted to that smoting thing. That's much more.
Yes, smart.
Yeah, that's that. Smoting is much more interesting and has more fear and anger and all that. Kind of Old Testament. Yahweh. Wrathful deity. Really what the Christian Zionists have done is they took the Old Testament, parts of the New Testament, really kind of, disassembled Psalms and bolted Revelations to the Old Testament. Really that's what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you get all the smoting and the smiting and sort of the bloodlust of Yahweh, and then you get the end times, horror show. So it's like front loaded and back loaded with fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Fear is one of the driving forces of all the things going on in this world, and that's among the most powerful people too. Fear is very much a part of them, and intrinsically, everyone in their conscience knows if they're doing right or they're doing wrong. Okay, you kind of know this. And so you set up a dynamic inside yourself when you're constantly doing the wrong things. It's eventually going to, really ratchet up the fear because there's a retribution thing going on, and that's looming. I liken it to, say, feeling the hot breath of the devil on the back of your neck.
Right.
Cold breath.
I wanted to just share with you, Mexico is kind of a heavy place.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember going to Mexico City, and then Chichen Itza. And I'll never forget flying into Mexico City. There was thunder and lightning as I was flying into Mexico City. It was a pretty dramatic entrance. And there's this movie called Under the Volcano or Beneath the Volcano.
Yes.
And that speaks to Mexico. It's, it is not a lightweight destination. The symbol for Mexico is the serpent and the eagle, right? It's Scorpio. So, when you travel into a place like that, you're entering into a shamanic zone.
Yes, you are.
And I think you were initiated on some level there. That's what I think.
That's the oddest thing that you say that, because before I went, the ineffable was telling me that was going to happen, precisely that very thing, and that I was going to meet certain beings. I, at the time, thought I was going to physically meet them, but it was an invisible thing, actually. I don't exactly know what happened, and I think it may have happened without my even knowing it, because the ineffable will often say to me, and I will do it while you are sleeping, and I will do it while you are sleeping. It will happen while you sleep. I have no idea, no context of whatever that means, but I always go to bed now with certain kind of, anticipation, like, ooh, maybe it'll happen tonight,
Right. Well, I think you're integrating now. Something happened there. I think you went through some level of initiation, and you have not integrated it yet. It reminds me, Visible, of when I had the Ibogaine experience.
Oh, never taken that.
Yeah, I did it one time, and it took me 6 months to, find my bearings again.
Holy camoly!
Yeah, it is. It is.
What was the effects like?
Well, within the first 5 minutes, I was higher than any trip I'd ever had before.
Wow!
And that was the first 5 minutes. And I thought to myself, well, if this is what the first 5 minutes are like, what's going to go on for the next 12 hours? And the immediately, this was a very strange part of the trip, and then it got very involved. But immediately, I had this sense that I was actually being viewed through, like I was a camera.
Yeah, that's what we are, exactly.
But at that time, excuse me, the viewing audience was quite a large number of what I would call, for lack of a better term, aliens.
Oh, uh-huh.
And and the energy I got was very insectoidal.
Uh-huh.
And I felt like at a very early stage of this experience that I could lose my mind, because it felt like there was another operating sort of intelligence at that time, that had not only just joined with me, but I was conscious and aware of it, which we may not always be, right? So at that point, I called in a group of ancestors. I didn't even know who I was calling in, but I was calling everybody that I could, and it was a very interesting experience. Clearly they formed like a human wall between me and that experience.
Thank God for that.
And then I settled down, and I'm not going to go into the details of that trip or journey, but I'll tell you this: I had a complete reset. I had no desire to drink alcohol, coffee, anything unnatural, quote unquote. No desire whatsoever.
I've been there. I know that place.
And my boundaries, we have these like psychic boundaries that we develop in front of us. Uh-huh. And my psychic boundary was gone.
Wow.
And I felt really vulnerable.
Vulnerable, yeah, absolutely.
Really vulnerable. And I had to be very careful about who I was with and what I did.
Right.
And to your point, even though I had no desire to really drink, I remember at least one time doing like your equivalent of the six shot scotch thing.
Yeah.
Just so I could kind of remember what it was like to have a freaky boundary.
Right.
And that precipitated a very long period of abstinence on a substance level. But I'll tell you something. It also accelerated. It initiated me into a very heightened state of psychic awareness for the next few months. My sense is that's where you're going.
Oh, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, I even pulled a tarot card while we were talking about this about a couple minutes ago.
Uh-huh.
I got the Fool. It was for you. So you've got the Fool.
Yeah.
0 point.
Yeah. When I was in Mexico, gave a tarot seminar, went on for a couple of hours. I laid them out, there's one particular way you can lay them out, where you put the first 7 cards at the top, the next 7 cards below that, the next 7 cards below that. And the first line up at the top is forces, or agencies. Forces that operate through the agency, which is the next level of cards, to correct or bring about the conditions. That is the next level of cards. So I went through this whole thing with that. I had studied the cards for many decades, and I belonged to the Builders of the Dido Mystery School, and I took their lessons for a long, long, long time. It was funny, I seldom ever bother with it anymore. The cards are around here somewhere. I have no idea where.
Yeah.
I don't even look at them anymore. Well, whatever I was supposed to accomplish with them, I did. And, I activated the internal voice, so now I have that, and I don't really have to resort to external modalities anymore. I hope you're right about where you think I'm headed, because, as I say, one of the reasons I'd like to get a little more insight into my chart in the next couple of months is that I get this real woo-woo thing happening, and I think maybe it's Neptune, but it's like maintaining my balance, is a little bit, difficult. I feel pushed and pulled, by, various kinds of attractions. Not that I'm particularly going to act on them,
Right. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, we'll do an offline session.
Uh-huh.
And we'll do it. Last time I recorded it for you, and this time we'll do it like a Skype reading, like we're doing now.
Oh, fantastic!
So we'll dialogue around that, get that done. Well, we're also in this very heightened series and sequence of solar flares, and that's affecting people too, and I think in a very big way. We had a major burst. It was about a week ago, a significant, and these are all escalating up through 2013, and even into 2013. It's not like they magically end in 2012. They don't. They continue through 2013. So, and I'm sure that's impacting a lot of people, and including you.
I didn't even think of that. That's right. I've been aware of the fact that there was a lot of solar activity that was going to be going on, but stuff just doesn't stick in my head, that sort of thing. But I see whatever. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, it's really about being in the moment now, and it feels to me, like you got your process, and you open up, you wind up, and you let it fly.
Yeah.
So yeah. Speaking of flying, are you gonna make it down to South Africa?
Well, I don't know about that. Patrick has another guest right now that's taking a lot of his attention, and he had mentioned that he really wants me to come down, and I am more than willing to go down, but I think a lot of it is dependent on the world situation. See, I wouldn't be going anyway for another 6 weeks or 2 months, and by that time, I have a very strong suspicion that the Iranian thing is going to be operative. I think that's coming in the middle of March, and so that can impact on my ability to travel. However, I really would like to see Patrick Willis. I admire him very highly. And he and I collaborate together in such a really fine way that I was just really looking forward to getting down there with him in his studio, and the two of us, cooking up all kinds of creative things. So that's my big driving force there.
Right.
I honestly don't know anymore. I have been hoping also to go to Ireland maybe this summer and see my friend Jim Core, who for a couple of days, who lives over there. He's a fellow I'm very fond of. You may know him. He's with the group The Cores.
Yeah, and I've read his political stuff and stuff around the economy, and I respect him a great deal.
He's a really decent guy. I'll tell you, he came to visit me in Italy. We spent 3 days just sitting at a table outside and talking. That's all we did. And it was the most easy and friendly and embracing kind of a little life vignette that that I've had. I mean, it was just remarkable. And I remember, looking at him on different occasions going, this guy's just really good right to his core. He's just a really good person. And humble, unassuming. Just the highest admiration.
Good right to his core. I like that.
Yeah, he is. I believe.
He also has some very attractive siblings.
Oh, my God, has he got some beautiful sisters.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, what that must have been like for him, growing up that way. I understand he had really good parents and a really nice family setting, so it must have been, he had a charmed life in some ways.
Well, the Corrs were a very serious musical act. I mean, not serious in the sense that they were like, Philip Glass or anything, but when I say serious, they sold a lot of records.
9 million copies of one CD.
Yeah, and extremely popular on TV shows and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
well, the sisters.
Yes, definitely fetching eye candy stuff.
Definitely a fact.
Yeah, no, I liked his stuff that he wrote about with Ireland and the debt and defaulting. And, no, it's good stuff. He's a courageous guy, very courageous guy.
Yeah, well, he put his career aside, all the rest of that, and just went into basically public service. He works tirelessly at trying to organize and get the message out to people. I mean, I just got to admire someone like that.
I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you on that totally. Well, I think our time here is rapidly drawing to a close in terms of the window that I have. I've got a few more minutes. So is there anything else that you kind of want to share with people? You got any tasty nuggets that you want to throw out there for folks?
Well, I can only speak in terms of what I myself am hearing myself, and that is that I think other people, if they're having problems, they're having difficulties in their life, my belief is that it has to do with a lack of reliance and surrender. We are being called upon in this time to trust implicitly in the one who has authored us and who guides our ways, though we may or may not be aware of it. And that the message, the impetus that I get is that we have to give way. We have to practice giving way. We have to practice leaving our affairs in the hands of the divine and seeking with a greater intensity within for contact, because that contact is available now. It's much more available than it ever was before, and that's why so many forces intrude between the person and this particular avocation, because of being so available. The darkness is trying to, really shake it all up and distract us from it. But that presence is very present now, and people can access it if they will just apply a greater intensity and more consistency and more determination. I feel very confident of that for many people, and I think they should really take that to heart. One of the ways to do that is just to turn your affairs over, rely, surrender to the degree that you feel capable, and ask for the opportunity to have a greater surrender.
Well, that was a very Neptunian sort of meditation there. That's good stuff. Well, thank you. It's always. I feel like we should do this. Every so often, almost like Tuesdays with Maury or something like that.
Not a problem. If you want to do it on a regular basis with me, you just arrange it and set it up.
Yeah.
Because I'm very comfortable with you. It's very easy to talk to you, to interact with you. We don't step on each other's toes. In terms of taking time to speak and the rest of it, we're both capable of stepping back, and I really like you've got a very engaging manner, and it's a pleasure to work with you. I really want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this.
Well, you're more than welcome, and I really appreciate the synergy that I think is starting to happen in a very kind of a kind of etheric synergy that's taking place, and I'm really appreciate you allowing me into your world and your universe to share that with you.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Well, you stay warm.
I will. I'm indoors, so okay. You be really well, and many blessings upon you until we meet again.
All right, Visible. Take care.
Aloha.
So I want to thank Visible, and I want to thank Abel Ferreira to be able to spend time with me and kind of share what's going on with them. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. We're having a really, very spirited discussion in there for showing up. And I'll be back on Monday with the Monday mashup. Use your head to discern what's real or accept what's possible. This is Robert Phoenix. Have a great weekend.
We are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this an alternative world branched off.